Hey everybody, welcome to Example of Play, the home for strategy, tactics, and more. If you haven't subscribed already, now's your chance. Today I'm going to do a little feature on one of the hidden gems of the strategy gaming world, and that is Beyond All Reason, or called BAR for short. This is a free, open source, player-driven, player-made game that carries on the spirit of Total Annihilation and Supreme Commander, some of the funnest, biggest scale, epic RTS games that have ever been made. And there are kind of probably two kinds of people watching this video today. You know about Bar and you're going to be excited to see it covered here because it is kind of this hidden gem that not everyone knows about because it's not on Steam, not yet. Someday it'll be on there, but currently you just have to go and find it on the internet, which makes it kind of hidden in a way. Or you've never heard of Bar, and it's a good day for you because you now know about this game that is free, that's open source, that you can go play right now. I'll put the link down in the comment in the info below, and you can jump in and play these epic, crazy battles with some of the best gameplay that the RTS genre has to offer. Now, let's stop looking at this menu screen. Let's jump into some action, and we'll keep talking about it. All right, so let's get some gameplay. I've jumped into a multiplayer match here. And this is an 8 versus 8 match going on, and I figured instead of watching me stumble through the early game, it'd be more fun to watch some people who kind of know what they're doing duke it out on a big battlefield while I talk about the game. I should say up front that, yeah, the multiplayer scene for this game is great. There's always a few hundred people on. I'm watching this, I'm off work today, so I'm watching this in the middle of the day on a weekday, and there's plenty of matches going on. There's noob friendly lobbies, and there's ones that require you to have some experience, and so there's something for everybody. You can also play single player against the AI, so don't worry, we got you covered there, and we'll look at some of those options here in a little bit. But this game has some great multiplayer features. You can, right now I'm just seeing the whole battlefield, but you can limit yourself to like one player's view. You can even follow their camera, so you're just seeing exactly what this guy's seeing, Potato Roscoe. We can see his cursor, we can see what he's looking at, and know kind of exactly what he's doing. You know, if you're trying to like learn the game, you might find a really good player and just follow them and see what they're doing. You can even set it to like this TV mode where it just jumps around between the highest ranked players, so you can kind of just get a variety of views of what's going on. But we'll turn that off for now. But Supreme Commander, this is in the lineage of Supreme Commander and Total Annihilation. So the way these matches start, you have just your command unit, which is like this big robot guy, and you have very limited resource income at first. And so the way you get resources, there's only two, metal and energy, and there's basically no population cap. The only cap on you building stuff is the rate of income, so how fast are you bringing in resources versus how fast are you spending them. And it's really interesting, it's very streamlined and open, but also leads to complexity because it's up to you to build your strategy around what you're trying to do and what kind of units you want to use, because there's air, land, and sea, and then some. There's all kinds of stuff. This map doesn't have any water, but a lot of maps do have like islands and oceans and rivers and things that make units like hovercraft and aircraft and water units important. And then there's also, of course, all kinds of ground units. But you see these things here are like metal deposits, and so each one just gives you a little bit of metal income if you can build an extractor on it, a little mining thing. But that's kind of a hard cap on how much stuff you can build, how fast, because there's only so many of those spots on the map, and so you're trying to fight to gain control of those and destroy your enemies' extractors so that they're not getting that resource. And then there's also energy, which is a little more, you can build these like windmills and solar generators, and so you can build basically unlimited amounts of energy generation, but they're in these buildings that are vulnerable to being blown up, and if you ever do lose all your energy, all of a sudden you can't build stuff. You can't, you can build like these defensive towers and things that won't work without energy, and so you have to keep those buildings protected. And so it creates this really interesting dynamic where you're free to go about, everyone starts on the exact same footing, and then you're free to go about how you want to build out your force. There are, there's, like I was saying, there's all kinds of units, a huge variety. We'll look at some of them here in a little bit. There's all kinds of defensive things, so you can build like these turrets and artillery and laser towers and stuff. You can see whenever the artillery fires, it actually like flies across the map and lands somewhere. A huge feature of the game, of course, is that you can zoom in and watch these fun battles, even though a lot of times you're going to be zoomed out looking at the big picture. You can zoom in, and there is, there's some micro to it because a lot of the projectiles fly through the air, so sometimes you can dodge things. Different types of units counter other types of units, and so you need to kind of be aware of what your enemy's doing. You can build radar towers, so you kind of have some early warning of when enemies are coming at you. So if we switch to like only being able to see what one player sees, now we can see that their vision only goes so far, but they have like a radar tower built, so they know there's some red dots out there from enemy players, but they don't know what's coming till it gets into visual range. So recon is part of it, and then kind of an in-game thing that can stop the game from getting bogged down into endless battles or prevent you from just going after a turtling strategy is that you can build nukes that fly across the map and do huge damage, but there's also anti-nukes, so you can defend against that too. And so we're kind of watching, yep, these guys are pushing in. This is kind of mid game here at least. And then part of the progression is that there's not research, there's not stuff you have to research. You have access to everything from the start. The question is, some things are way more expensive to build, so you can't just build everything. And the way you kind of progress through a match is your commander that you start with can build these tier 1 factories to build like your basic units. And then those factories can build engineers of different types that can then build tier 2 factories. And those tier 2 factories make units that are way stronger than the tier 1, but are also way more expensive. So like you can't, if you try to go straight for those, like you'll starve yourself of resources, and you won't do anything because you run out of resources, and you can't, like, you'll just not build anything good. So you have to kind of balance bringing in resources, expanding out, and growing your infrastructure, growing your energy economy, and then building those more expensive units. But you can't build them all, so you have to kind of decide what you're going to do. And then in a team game like this, you might have specialized things, like one player focusing on air, one player focusing on ground. You can share resources with each other, so it really has a lot of teamwork to it. And then this game is getting further into, it's at 12 minutes, about 13. So what I've seen is, yeah, most of these matches don't last too long, because usually one side or the other is going to get an advantage. We might look around and just see, so like yellow's got some aircraft up, they're being kind of a screen here. But this other team, I don't think they have any aircraft really to speak of. And then I wonder if anyone's building any nukes. Don't see any yet, but yeah, as soon as a nuke fires, you'll know, because a whole big chunk of something will get blown up. But yeah, so there was a hit. So commander died. So your commander, if they get destroyed in some matches, you can set it to where, like, if the commander dies, like, you're done, you're out. But you can also have it where all your construction units have to get destroyed, where the commander is less important. But yeah, whenever they die, they have like a big explosion and they get a marker on the map, because yeah, once he's gone, you don't get him back. And I figure we might watch this just for a minute to kind of just let you feel what playing this game is like. So here, yeah, blue, he's focused in, he's building his base out. He's not worried about the battle right now. And someone's drawing some lines, so you can draw these lines to your team so they see what you're wanting them to do. They're saying attack, looks like. He's building some energy towers there. But yeah, it's fun to just watch these big battles play out. Like, the units get destroyed, you can actually reclaim that wreckage to get some of the resources back. There's units that are specifically for that. There's like stealth units. There's just a huge variety. But right now it looks like they're just going with some pretty straightforward, building up some forces and rolling them into each other. And you can see the little cursors flying around everywhere of all the other players, what they're looking at and doing. But yeah, and I know multiplayer is not for everybody, but I figured it'd be fun to watch the game kind of at that level where you've got a lot going on the screen all at once. They're thinking about going, they got some coordination. And the battles are interesting because it's not just dumb, like build a bunch of units and send them at the enemy, because they'll get blown up. You have to kind of be tactical about it, strategic about it. Because the maps are so big, it takes a while for even an air unit to fly all the way across this map, takes a while. And so your more powerful ground units are going to be slower. And so the enemy might know that you're coming and be ready to counter it, or you just can't get there in time, or you hit here and they hit there and catch you in the flank and your base gets wiped out because all your units are out here fighting. And so it's for whether you are an RTS gamer, even if you're a war gamer that doesn't normally like really fast clicky stuff, this game is still rewards you for being strategic. And a lot of times it's more about your plan and kind of reacting to the battlefield, and it's not so much about just clicking really fast. It's about having a solid strategy of what you're going to do, because you are sometimes limited in how fast you can build stuff. So ooh, wow, some bombers got through right there, and I guess they realized that the team on the bottom here does not have much of an air force, and so all these bombers and fighters got through and are tearing them up. And so, yeah, the game rewards good strategy more than anything. It helps, of course, to click fast and kind of know what you're going to build out, but it's not quite like StarCraft, where you can win the game just by building your first 2 or 3 units really, really fast and going and destroying the enemy. You know, here the map is so big that it's kind of a slower pace, even though it can get out of hand really quick if you get caught flat-footed. Like even though Yellow lost most of their aircraft, they took out this huge swath of this player. So Tempest, we'll jump over and look. He's still got a lot of energy coming in, but took out a big chunk of his economy, basically. And now they got to counter that and rebuild, and that's going to cost them time and resources to rebuild, and that gives the other team some advantage for a while. Okay, so I've rambled on long enough here. You get the idea of what a big battle looks like. There's a lot of back and forth. There's a ton of different kinds of units and things you can build. You can zoom in and see, like, this is a very heavy assault tank, very creative name. And you can see that, it shoots a big gun that causes craters on the map. And they're just holding this little pass right here and just hitting these guys. So there's a strategy playing out here of just holding this one little chunk, and then there's this wide open space that they're fighting over too, and then fighting over here, trying to build defenses to hold that little area too. So very intricate battle going on. Which in a lot of games, you don't see a game where it actually feels like the geography matters. In most smaller RTS, like a StarCraft, something like that, like the map matters, yes, but it's at such a small scale that it's more like you're holding one very specific like ramp up from one base area to another, and it's all about that. Where here, it's so big that you're building out these defensive lines, you're fortifying positions with like multiple layers of defense. It's just, in my mind, it's more interesting in that way, because it's a longer, more drawn out battle at a slower pace, where you have like way more unit variety, and so it makes for these really cool battles. But we'll stop here and jump over to me taking control, just to kind of show you some of the how the game is played, and then we'll wrap it up. All right, so we're back here to the main screen just to look around. If you aren't one that wants to play big multiplayer matches, the game does have plenty of single player content, so you can do a skirmish against the AI. There's different types of AI, so you can customize them to be kind of how difficult you want them to be, and some different styles of how they play. And of course, you can also play really tough ones. And then there's even like some modes where there's like a wave mode where you're fighting like these bigger and bigger waves of AI units coming at you. Or there's like 2 different ones. I'm not sure what the exact differences are between those, but basically, it's just player versus, and it can be co-op versus the computer in regular matches, or these ones where it's just like waves of enemies coming at you and you're defending. So that can be fun too. And then the game has a bunch of scenarios. So right now there are about 22. I don't know, these last few are kind of benchmark things, but there's about 20 scenarios you can play that are increasingly difficult. And they work as some nice little tutorials to kind of learn the game, and they introduce different concepts and things. So that is a way to learn the game too. And we'll jump into one just to kind of let you see what's the beginning of a match look like. So if we jump in here, this is the very first scenario where the AI has a big base, but they don't like attack you. You just have to build up enough of a force to go defeat them. And so it makes for a very gentle start to the game. But we'll let it load in here, and then we'll play around with the early game. So in some of the matches, like the skirmishes, you get to pick exactly where you want to start within a zone. But here we're just on this spot. And like I said, we have our commander. who can build a bunch of stuff, but it's all kind of like basic level stuff. So there are economy buildings, so it can collect solar power or wind power, or the thing you need for sure to start is these metal extractors that go on these metal spots. And then one of the features of these kind of games is that you can queue up a bunch of orders for your units. So you can hold down shift and you can tell it like, hey, I want you to build these 3 things or not. And then you can, there's lots of smart commands. So even down here, you can say like this area mech. So this tells it just to build metal extractors on all the spots in an area. And so you can just be like, all right, I want you to build all those spots, and then it'll plot out its own waymarks to go and do that. But if we don't necessarily want to do that, we can tell it to build another one here. He's getting all confused why I keep giving him orders and canceling. And then you can build different types of turrets. So these basic level ones are basically like a laser turret to shoot at ground units, an anti-air turret to shoot at air units, and then there's water, like torpedo and things like that to go out in the water. But of course we don't have any water here. And then you can build like radar towers, you can build fortifications, you can build these little cameras to give you visual on different spots on the map. And then, that's the same one. And then the factories, so there's bots, vehicles, aircraft, ships, hovercraft, and then there's a ground and a water version of the hovercraft facility. So, and those are just the basic things. And so kind of just to give you an idea of like the mechanics of it. So as I'm building here, I'm gaining 6 metal from what I've built to start with, and you get just a little bit of baseline. And then I'm getting 25 energy, but right now while I'm building, I'm using way more of it than that. And one of the really interesting things of the game is, like I said, it's about income, how much you're spending versus how much you're bringing in. But one of the things you can do is if I build one of these construction bots here, that construction bot can then turn around and help this thing build faster. So like my commander can too. He's building this, but I can tell him, okay, when you finish that, switch to helping that. Give him a little queue up and order here. And you'll see it goes from 18 seconds to down to 3 seconds. So having the commander help build it makes it build way faster. But then we ran out of energy. So now it's not building, like it can't quite finish it because we ran out of power. And so that's what you have to be careful of. There's no unit cap. You can build as many as you want, but if you run out of resources, you can get yourself in a situation where you're not building anything because you don't have enough resources to keep going, and like your defenses and stuff can shut down. So you have to avoid that situation where you starve yourself of resources. And you can see we have all these different kind of bots. These are just the bots, tier 1 bots. There is a Rocketeer, good against stack defenses, Plasma bot, a anti-swarm bot's kind of like a flamethrower unit, a fast infantry bot, so is kind of lighter but very fast, a scout bot that's basically like one hit and it's dead, but it's super cheap and super fast, an amphibious anti-air bot, so that can go in the water and it can shoot at enemy air units. And so that's just in this tier 1 bots. And then if we look at our construction bot, he can build things the same as the commander, but he actually has access to way more stuff. So it can get like this advanced solar collector that costs more, but produces 3.5 times more energy. It can build a cloaked metal extractor, so one that's like cloaked, and so it's a little bit more hidden, but costs more. You can also build like energy storage things, so like you can increase your cap on these, so you collect it, and then you can have some in storage so that it doesn't all go away instantly if some of your buildings get knocked out. Just a lot of stuff. And so I don't mean this video to be like a whole tutorial thing, but just kind of giving you an idea of what it looks like as you build things out. But one important thing is, your engineer can then build a tier 2 bot lab. And then that is, well, it's way more expensive to start with, but then it can build these tier 2 units that are way more powerful, but cost a lot more. And it can also build a tier 2 construction bot, which you guessed it, can build the highest tier things, way more powerful versions of everything we've already seen, but also can build these like experimental factories that build, like, if you remember from Supreme Commander, you could build these like gigantic units that were super powerful. And yes, like super weapons are possible to build in this game too. I don't want to belabor this video any longer than it's gone, but I wanted to kind of give you an idea of what the controls look like and some of the other features here. And yeah, one of the coolest things of the game is that you can queue up a bunch of orders. Like I can say before this factory is even built, I can queue up that I want it to build, you know, 5 of these and 10 of these and 15 of those. And then you can even have it repeat your order, so it's just constantly churning those units out. You can have it set to quota mode, where it's just going to always have X number of units on the battlefield, so you don't have to, like, I always want a few scouts available or something like that. And so the game is just so feature rich. It's really impressive what they've done with it over the years, and it, like I said, it's just runs off donations and passion, basically. And so great game to try if you ever played Supreme Commander or Total Annihilation or just RTS games in general. You're looking for something that mixes, you know, the tactical RTS stuff with like a strategic level of you're making these big decisions too, all in a package that has single player, multiplayer, co-op versus the AI. It's basically got it all. So it's just kind of a hidden gem. I'd heard about it for a long time and I never played it myself, but I wanted to give it a try. And I've been playing it the last few weeks and realized, wow, this is a really fun game that has a lot going for it. And it's kind of hidden because it's not on Steam. You have to kind of just know that it exists and go out there to it. But the link is in the comments. So I highly recommend, if you found this at all interesting, go download it, play it, try it out. It's a really fun time. If you start in on it and you're kind of flummoxed by the controls and the way the economy and stuff works is a little different than some other games, there are some guides out there and videos. So, you know, give it a chance. If you bounce off it at first, try again. But really, once you get going, you'll realize, like, wow, this game has so many features that I wish other games had, or the way it plays is just so both streamlined and in depth. It's easy to play, but like the possibilities of what you can do are basically endless. And then if you go online and play with other people, then it just gets, you know, totally crazy. 8 versus 8 matches where everyone's building tons of units on these huge battlefields and having these epic battles, and it's just a good time. So thanks for watching. I hope you found this at least interesting or entertaining, and we'll see you next time.